Mate. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
This is Justin and Erica from YouAreCreators, and we have a special guest, Miss Melody Fletcher. Welcome, Melody.
Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So let's just give the listeners a little brief, small biography on who Melody is. Melody is a law of attraction expert. She's known for breaking down the law of attraction in a fun, understanding way, which she uses direct, honest approach. She helps people who are tired of not being genuinely happy to figure out who they truly are, what they truly want, and why they haven't gotten it so far. Melody teaches people exactly what they need to do to realize their dreams. Her blog, Deliberate Receiving, and ebook, which shares the name, are humorous, no holds barred tools, focus on the law of attraction and how it works and how to actually apply this to your real life situations. Melody has an amazing story of her awakening and is a truly, truly, truly enlightened teacher, and we're so excited to have her.
Oh, guys, thank you. Well, when you lay it out like that, my goodness.
So, Melody, can you just give us a little extra background on who you are, how you got into law of attraction and teaching and all that good stuff?
Yeah, it was just a really natural, weird, wonderful progression because I feel like, very much that I've been preparing for this all my life. I didn't know I was preparing for it. It wasn't a conscious thing, but very much looking back, I can see that. But I've had a lot of different careers, a lot of different jobs, corporate background for quite a few years, but was always this really intuitive, empathic person, and that created a big clash within me, because I wasn't a conformist. Things didn't make sense to me. Organized religion didn't make sense to me. Our economy didn't make sense to me. Why we have to run things the way that we did. Why we're all so scared of each other. And trying to fit into the corporate environment and kind of follow that along and be successful in that environment, which I was, and yet still have this sort of innate knowledge, created a big clash, and it created a lot of upheaval in my life. And there came a point where, I like to call this the cattle prod moment, which is when you go down the road that isn't serving you, it just gets more painful, and then it's like somebody at some point just hits you with a cattle prod, and it just, kind of shocks you awake. And
right.
And that's sort of, what other people might call hitting rock bottom, but that just sounds like less fun. And so I had my cattle prod moment, and I just realized I can't do this anymore. I cannot take it anymore. And I was able to then, allow my departure from the corporate world. It all kind of just happened almost in a daze. And I spent some time really listening to Abraham Hicks. I credit them with being quite influential teachers in my life. The Seth books, Odin, and a lot of channeled material, as well as just resting and meditating a lot. And about 2 months after that, I had this moment where the penny just dropped, and suddenly I understood how the universe worked. Now, I want to kind of stress that was sort of the first awakening, because there's been many since, going deeper and deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole. And but that was, it was incredible, because suddenly I could look around and I could see how people were interacting with each other, and it was like I could see the underlying structure of it all. And it was so beautiful. And I really have always been a teacher. I've always been a person whose gift it has been that I can break down complex processes and explain them to people in easy-to-understand ways. And so I knew that I wanted an internet company because I wanted to be location independent. And it just kind of came together beautifully. It manifested beautifully once I really made the decision that I could not live my life in that corporate environment anymore. And it's been an evolution. If you go on my site, I haven't erased anything. You can totally see my evolution from first awkward video and first, humorless, dry articles that I wrote because I was afraid that, using humor together with personal development would make people not take the subject seriously. And I, despite my using humor, it is a very serious subject. It's a very profound subject and life-changing subject. But I'm not a serious person. And as I kind of got in touch with, the courage, I guess, at the time to really be myself more and more, which is what all of this really is about, is to become more truly yourself. That humor came out more and more. People started to really respond and flock, and the feedback was really great. And my biggest goal, really, and this might surprise people, but my biggest goal in writing my blog and doing my videos and doing everything that I do is to have fun. It's got to be fun for me. And if it's fun for me, then it ends up being fun for other people. Yay! But if I make other people the goal, then it doesn't end up being that much fun for me, and I get stressed out. So every blog post has to, please me. Every picture has to make me laugh. Every joke has to make me laugh. They're just in there for me. And then, the bonus is that other people like it too.
Right. Right. So let me ask you this, Melody. For the beginners or the new listeners, can you explain to us what the law of attraction is?
Yes, I can. But my explanation is slightly different from what a lot of other teachers might use. And I tried to look for a different term because I feel like, there's so much of this information out there about it, or just different approaches as well, both of those. For me, you'll see a lot of people kind of breaking down the laws of the universe into 11 laws or kinds of different, modules. For me, I use the law of attraction as a blanket term because I like to keep things simple. And for me, the law of attraction basically is that what you put out vibrationally comes back to you vibrationally, because you're essentially in a holographic universe, and everything that is in your universe is a mirror reflection of you. So if you're putting out fear, you're going to get back instances that allow you to feel that fear. So that's at the basis of that. But in order to accept that, this is where, other people's other laws come in. In order to accept that, you have to kind of accept a whole lot of other prerequisites, such as that we are more than what is just in our physical bodies. Because how could you accept that you are at the center of a holographic universe, creating that universe, if you don't think that there's more to you than what you see? You have to accept that we are powerful creators. You have to accept that you are worthy, because if you're not worthy, you can't create anything. You have to accept that you're eternal, because if you're more than just in the physical body, you're going to go on after death. So there's all these kinds of prerequisites that come in automatically once you understand that you are creating your reality vibrationally. So the law of attraction is, at its purest form, the mechanism that essentially says whatever you focus upon, which is your creative power, whatever you focus upon starts to grow. It's like more particles just like that, of that same frequency, get drawn to that, and you create momentum and build momentum until it eventually comes into the physical. But again, all those other concepts that people talk about are required in order for you to fully understand it and fully accept that. And I prefer to take that approach rather than trying to break everything down and make you understand every single module, because those other ones are sort of just automatic. They just fall into line if you focus on this one concept.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
So in doing, we speak about visualizing a lot. How can we manifest our goals faster?
Okay, so those are actually two different topics, because you said visualization, you said manifest our goal faster. So let me answer them slightly separately. So visualization is what most people don't realize, is because a lot of people think that visualization actually creates. It doesn't. It's just a tool. Visualization is our mind's way of translating energy in a way that we can understand. Visualizing is kind of like turning on the TV. It translates a frequency and allows us to see, quote unquote, those frequencies. So if you let your imagination run wild, if you say, okay, I want a relationship, so let me imagine a relationship, but then you don't do anything to it, you just imagine a relationship, and then you start to kind of go, oh wow, I can see the guy cheating on me. Now why would I choose to imagine that? Well, what your visualization is showing you, like a movie, is where your vibration is at right now, where your belief system is at right now. And if you're visualizing something negative, and a lot of people do this, they just let their mind drift, and it shows them where their vibration is at. You can also then shape the visualization, and by doing that, you're actually shaping the frequency. You're changing the frequency. You're changing the vibration of what it is that you're looking at. So it is a beautiful tool which we can use to work with vibration, to do a check, to see where it is, to kind of see those frequencies, but in it itself doesn't actually do anything, just like your TV doesn't actually do anything. So to manifest faster, first of all, people don't have to learn to manifest. We are manifesting all the time. Everything in your reality, you're manifesting. And so you notice that this stuff, there's a whole lot of stuff manifesting that you don't even have to think about. And that's really the key. The more you relax about something, the more easily it comes to you. So paradoxically, to speed up your manifestations, stop focusing on time, because the only reason that you need something to happen right now is because you're afraid it might not happen at all. Hey, universe, bring it to me right now so that I can feel safe, because then I know it's coming. I know it's come. I know it's here. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But if it's out there somewhere, then I might be afraid that it's not going to come. And so you're actually coming from a place, when you're impatient, you're actually coming from a place of vibrating that it probably won't show up at all. And that's not going to create what you want. So you have to let that go. A good metaphor to think of is if you plant a watermelon seed in the ground and you rip it out every day, you're not going to get any fruit.
Right.
Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? No. You got to plant it and leave it. And before you know it, you have a beautiful garden. Yeah. And so the key really is to give up on the timing, know that everything happens in perfect timing, and understand that the fear that runs underneath that is that it may not happen at all. So an exercise that I like to use with my clients is to say, if I could give you a signed contract from the universe, from God, from whoever you need it from, that says this thing you want will show up 6 months from now, guaranteed. It's coming 6 months from now. It's going to be here. It's going to be delivered to your doorstep. How would you then feel? How would you go about your life? If you knew it was coming without a shadow of a doubt, you wouldn't be sitting there stressing about it. You wouldn't keep thinking, where is it? Where is it? What do I have to do? Do I have to do anything? Am I doing it wrong? None of that would be part of it, because you would just, it's on its way. I can relax. I can prepare for it. I can do whatever, do whatever that you would do, and keep reminding yourself that it is coming. Practice the thought that it is coming, because the thought that it might not be coming is just a practice thought too. It's just one that doesn't feel very good.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, Melody, question. How can we attract more money in our lives?
By not needing to attract money. And I know so many teachers say that, and it's so unsatisfying, isn't it? It's like, shut up, Melody. Just tell us where to get the lottery money at. Yeah? And but the thing is, what you have to understand is that money is a representation. Money is a representation of energy. It is nothing more than that. And it is hardly ever what we actually want. It is almost always how we think we have to get what we want. And so a lot of people will say, well, I want money. Well, what do you want the money for? Well, I want money so I can buy this and this and this. And first of all, it's whatever you want to buy with the money is sometimes the what, but sometimes that's just a how as well. Sometimes you've got to dig a little bit deeper. For example, somebody might say, I want money so I can buy a new car. Well, why do you want a new car? Well, because that will make me feel abundant. It will be a sign that I've made it. I want to feel successful. Well, the feeling of success is what you actually want. And guess what? You don't necessarily need to have money to get that. So the trick is to focus on, to dig down, get clear on what it is that you really want, which is generally going to be a feeling, and that feeling can be represented by stuff, and that's okay. Just know that as you're focusing on that stuff, that new car, that house, that job, that girlfriend, whatever, that it's just a representation, and that whatever your imagination can come up with in terms of that representation, the universe can probably come up with something even better. So don't get too married to a specific representation. It has to be this car. It has to be this house. I have to live in this city. Yeah? But a lot of people really, really greatly limit the flow of energy by saying it has to come through money. I have to get so and so much money, and then I can get this. The problem also with money is that a lot of people want money just in case. Again, it's a fear that they can't get what they want. It is a lack of trust in the idea that they can get what they want. And so I want a big fat bank account so that I can have some stuff that I'm not going to buy for a long, long time. And the thing is, the resources for your manifestations don't come years ahead of the manifestations. When a manifestation comes in, because you're a match to it, not for any other reason, because you're a match to it, that's it, then everything that you need to make that manifestation happen, including if you need money, will come into your reality at that time, when you need it. Not 5 years before, just so that you can feel safe. It's your job to feel safe on your own. And then let what you want come in the best way possible. And the way that I like to explain it is if you think about being in a round room with a bunch of doors in it, and all of those doors are representative of different ways in which abundance can come to you, and you insist that it has to come through the money door, you shut all the other doors.
Right.
And if money isn't the best way, isn't the path of least resistance, you might have heard that term, isn't the best way for it to come to you, best as in what best fits all of what you want and what your belief system is, which you don't have that view and you don't need to have that view. The universe has that view. Your higher self has that view. Your little human mind doesn't have to, it's not equipped to deal with that, which is why we have such a hard time trying to do that. Yeah. And I'm not picking on you, that's all of us, yeah? None of us are equipped to do that. And so we have a hard time when we try to do that, when we try to control all that orchestration. It is far too complex for our human minds to deal with. But the good news is that we don't have to. What we want to do is we want to open as many doors as possible. So we want to say, I don't care how it comes to me. I'm not even going to try to control that. I can't even figure out all the possibilities of how it could come to me. I just want what I want. And so I'll give you a quick example. Last year, I decided that I wanted to fly business class, and I thought that it would, I would do that in 2014, and then I kind of went, duh, Melody, hello, you're a creator. So I went, because I was thinking, well, in 2014, I'll be able to afford it. And so I said to the universe, you know what, I don't care. I want a business class flight. I don't care how you bring it to me. And I thought of a few possibilities just to kind of open up my mind to the idea that it didn't have to come financially, like I could be upgraded for free, for example. And I just put that out to the universe, and then I forgot about it. I trusted on it. I did not keep ripping the seed out of the ground. And before I knew it, very quickly, I was led through a series of very easy synchronicities to a broker that got me like 80% off a business class flight.
Wow.
And it was, yes, I still had to pay for it, but I paid way less. It was a price that I was very happy to pay, no problem at all. So it was not a financial hardship, which is what I had said to the universe. I want a business class flight. I want that luxury, but I don't want it to be a financial hardship. I want to pay for it easily. And then I got into the feeling of that and just trusted. And once I gave up the idea that I had to get it in a certain way. I have to earn this much money, and then I have to pay for it with my own money, da-da-da. Once I kind of gave that up and said, I don't care how it comes. Just put me in the business class section. Then it happened quite easily.
Awesome. I love that story. So, Melody, you teach people how to genuinely be happy. And so how can we actually raise our vibrations? What are some tips that we could use?
Well, the simple and completely unsatisfying, I understand that answer, is just be happier. And I realize that's, for most people it's going to be unsatisfying because they're going to hear, but I want to be happy. What do I do? Well, be happy to be happy. And then they just want to punch me in the face. I get that. Yeah. But the key is that people do not realize that happiness is a choice. It is very, very much a choice. And sometimes you can't reach happiness. That's okay. So, go for relief. Go for better. So in any given situation, there is always going to be multiple ways that you can react to that situation, multiple ways that you can look at that situation. And so the first step is to recognize that. Because most people, when they're in a situation that doesn't feel good, part of the reason that it doesn't feel good is because they're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm trapped. I only have one option. Or I have two options. One is really horrible, really, really bad, financial ruin, losing my family, people will hate me, whatever it is, yeah. And then this other option that also doesn't feel good, but it's the lesser of the evils. And what they don't realize is that there's always an option C. And D and E and F and, down the line. But there's always another option. And the first key to seeing that better feeling option, one that actually feels truly good to you, is to recognize that it exists. Even if you can't see it right now. That's okay. You can't see it right now, but it exists. Right. Yeah? And then to choose to feel better. In essence, it comes down to also being absolutely unwilling to settle for an option that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good in your heart, that doesn't feel good in your gut, where you're sitting there and you're losing sleep. I have to make this decision. I don't want to make this decision, but it's the lesser of the evils. You have to be willing to open yourself up. And when you do this, you can often feel a visceral opening up of the heart chakra. The whole chest area starts to open up when you realize, oh my God, there has to be a better way. Most people, unfortunately, require that aforementioned cattle prod moment before they'll make that decision. They get in so much pain that finally they just kind of go, I give up. There has to be a better way. And energy starts to flow. Well, you don't need to wait until you're in that much pain. You don't need to be down and out. The universe does not have to be smacking you in the head with a frying pan. You can choose that right now. You can choose, and you don't have to be looking down the barrel at the lesser of two evils. You can say, oh, that's kind of an annoying option, and that's a less annoying option. But I don't really like either one because, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So look for the hell yes. Now, it depends on where you are.
Right.
If you're currently in a lot of pain, then you will look for the option that provides you truer relief. But if you're actually sort of on your way to being a happy, shiny puppy, you want to look for the option that represents your highest joy in that moment. Which one of these actually feels good to me? Then you start to choose between good and better and awesome and more awesome. And that's when life becomes really, really fun. So happiness... First of all, the other thing I want to say is don't always reach for happiness, because if you're currently in a place of total despair and depression, or life looks like it sucks, or people are oppressing you in some way, then relief's going to look like anger. And anger is going to feel better for you, yeah?
Right.
And so you have to kind of respect where you are and what actually feels better for you. And if you're in that position and you're looking for happiness, you're going to make it. You're not going to make it. It's too far. Happiness, you have no access to happiness, but you do have access to relief. And so this is, a lot of the criticism about positive thinking comes from people who are reaching for thoughts that they are not anywhere in the vicinity of, and then they come and they say, oh, see, this positive thinking crap doesn't work. Well, yeah, it does work if you're willing to do it incrementally. And so I know, this is the option. People want to get a technique, and they want to just, do this and you'll be happy. But if, and preferably it's a pill. If you could just give me a pill, and okay, those pills exist, but they won't make you happy for long. And after they wear off, you don't feel so good anymore. You're right back where you started, only now you're even less happy there because now you've tasted what it feels like to not feel so unhappy. So the better way to realize it is reach for that relief. Look at, what is available to you right now in this moment that feels better, and do not settle for something that just feels awful to you, even if it's the lesser of two evils.
Great information. Great. I love it. We all have negative family members or maybe a negative spouse. How can we deal with them? Should we distance from them?
If you need to distance yourself from them, if you absolutely cannot keep your vibration stable, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, around them, then you might need to get yourself, some distance. Particularly, I did this with my family. I moved away quite early, and got and they weren't horrible people or anything like that, but I had to get away from them in order to look at myself differently, in order to get away from my family's beliefs, in order to get away from some of my cultural beliefs, and, put myself into an environment where I could really figure out who I was. A lot of the time, and now I can go back and I have a very different relationship with them because my vibration is stable. A stable vibration simply means, and I'm talking about a stable high vibration, because you can have a stable low vibration, and a lot of people do, but that's not something to aim for, so I'm not going to explain how to get there. A stable high vibration is essentially when you are stubborn about feeling good, and you don't let anybody rip you out of that. And again, feeling good is a choice. And when you recognize it as a choice, then you can know that you can decouple how you feel from how other people feel. And your family is going to test you in ways that other people can't, because you care more about them. And the more you care about a person, the harder it is for you to kind of say, look, I know that you're in a place of pain, but I'm not going to let you drag me into your place of pain. And for most people, that sounds very, very selfish. Until you understand, and the bad kind of selfish, not the good kind of selfish, until you understand that you commiserating with them does them absolutely no good. And so the metaphor that I like to use for that, I have a couple really creative ones, but it's basically somebody is in a deep pit full of, and I'll be really respectful of your readership here, of your listenership here, poo. Yeah, and I'm not going to curse a lot here, but
okay.
I'm going to keep myself.
Please don't.
But you're in this, it rhymes with pit, but today I'm going to say poo. So, So there they are in their poo pit, and they're just miserable, and they're just yelling at you, help me out, help me out, help me out. And you go, a good person that you are, wanting to help, and you reach down, and you want to help them out, but they just yank you back in. They yank you down. Now you're both in the poo pit. Now you're both miserable. Yeah. Now, they might feel slightly better because they're not alone, but you haven't really helped them out of the pit. And now you're in the pit too. And this is what happens when somebody comes along and says, oh, my life is crap. And you sit down with them and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Your life is crap. And before you know it, you both feel crap.
Right.
Yeah? But what you want to do is you want to recognize that the only way you can really help them is to stay on the ground and say, hey, here's my hand. You got to do the work. I'll help you out, but you got to do the work. And I'll help you out of the pit anytime that you want. And you'll find that a lot of them in that moment kind of go, no, you have to come down here. If you love me, you'll come down here. You say, no, I will be up here when you're ready, but I'm not coming down where you are. And so what you're doing vibration is you're keeping your vibration high and stable. And what's going to have to happen is one of three things. Either your vibration has to drop to meet theirs, and you're not going to let that happen, so that's not an option anymore. They're going to have to come up to meet your vibration, which means they're actually going to feel better, or they're going to get really annoyed with you and they're going to get away from you because they won't be able to tolerate your higher vibration. They'll get very, very uncomfortable. You will not feel that discomfort, but they will. So if that happens, let them get away from you. They will still have benefited from getting that hit of your higher vibration, but it just means that on their path, which is perfect for them, do not judge it to not be perfect for them, which is what we do when we say, I think that you should be further along, and if you just did this, you would feel better, and, why aren't you willing to do what I need you to do so you can feel better. If you truly allow somebody to be where they are, you say, look, you're on the perfect path, and that's okay, and I know that you're going to get there, and I will shine the light on the path, and I know that you're going to get there in whatever way, either with my help or somebody else's help, But it's kind of condescending to look at anybody, including your family members, and say, I think you should be somewhere else. I think you should be doing better because their path is not your path. You're not on the same path. And right. So you don't get to judge somebody else's journey. You don't know what it is that they're releasing. You don't know where they came from and where they're going. You may think you know that about the people that you love, but you don't. You don't. And you don't get to make that determination for them, And it's a little bit like, you're getting a PhD in chemistry and your wife is getting a PhD in human studies, and, you converge and she takes a chemistry class and you sit there and go, well, you should know this by now. And she's looking at you going, what? We don't have the same major. I don't have the same interest in chemistry. I'm taking this because I have to, And this is essentially what we're doing, when we're looking at somebody else's path and judging it. We're seeing one small part of it that has converged with our path, and we're judging their entire journey by that and saying you should be further along.
Wow, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So let me put on my mommy hat right now, okay? So we have 3 sons. A lot of our listeners have children. How can we start to teach our children universal laws?
Oh, God, I love working with parents. Just awesome. Kids are so reactive. The second you change your vibration, those kids react instantly. So congrats on having 3 kids, and well done on that. And just get the hell out of their way. So the point is you don't have to teach your kids. They remember better than you do. And so it is, and I'm not saying let your kids run amok and do whatever, they want and slap you as they leave the house and, say bad things to you. I'm not saying that at all. But if you can bring in a little bit of the element that your kids are actually the teachers in the relationship a lot of the time, that it isn't just you teaching them, it's them teaching you as well, then you can kind of restore some of that balance. Because a lot of, unfortunately in our society, and this is changing, but unfortunately in our society, we still tend to think of kids as sort of like a little idiot version of adults who come into the world and have absolutely no sort of compass of their own. And if we're not on them 24/7, they're just going to run out into traffic and get hit by a car, or they're constantly sort of away from killing themselves. Just one step away from killing themselves or maiming themselves or, doing horrible things to themselves, as if that's, they're just kind of these little idiot robots that we have to instill knowledge in, and then at one point they're done and then they can kind of think for themselves. But that's absolutely not true. Kids have innate wisdom, innate knowledge. They have a higher being, and they're powerful, powerful beings just like you are. Right. And so the idea is not that you have to, teach them how to do everything. It is you are teaching them how to navigate in this world, but that doesn't require nearly as much data as people think it does. And so don't train them out of remembering. Now, something that you can do, how old are your children? How old's the oldest?
6. Our
Okay.
oldest is 6.
So they're little still. Good. They're going to totally remember this, yeah? And it will make absolutely, at that age, it will make absolutely no sense to them when you try to apply limiting beliefs to them, and they will fight you tooth and nail. What you want to do is, number one, is you want to point out to them, if you want to help them manifest and teach yourself at the same time, because as you're teaching, you're remembering, you want to point out the cause and effect of things. So if you focus on something and it manifests, you want to point that out. You did that. I did that. Mommy did that. Yeah? Because they will take to that very easily. Yeah, we focused like this and we got it. And we focused like that and we got it. Secondly, and I know I'm going really fast here. I could do an entire hour just on parenting, but I get really excited about parenting. But secondly, allow them to be who they are. Don't get caught up in control issues. Your children are not here to please you or to prove your worthiness to you by showing you how well you can control them, which is how a lot of people, unfortunately, still, approach kids. Your kids should be allowed to disagree with you respectfully, but they should be allowed to disagree with you, because if they're not allowed to disagree with you, you're essentially saying you don't get to have an opinion of your own. My opinion is more important than yours. So, simple things like, if your child says, I don't like broccoli, do not say, yes, you do. Or, well, you have to eat it anyway. Or if your child says, I hate Bobby, don't say, no, you don't. In that moment, your child is expressing a feeling. Allow them to be who they are and allow them to use their judgment. Don't take their judgment away from them by constantly telling them what to do. Allow them to figure it out. The only time that you should really ever step in and you take that away from them is if they're really truly about to hurt themselves. And you have to discern, are they really truly about to hurt themselves, or are they just going to learn a valuable life lesson? Yeah? And as parents, people tend to jump in way too soon because they're afraid for their kids. But that's really their fear. And what children are so brilliant at is showing you where your own limiting beliefs are, and they will dance around on them until your last nerve is spent, to show you this is a stupid belief, let it go. And this is where most people get caught up in control issues. They're saying, well, no child of mine is going to tell me, and I can't show weakness in front of my child, when really being willing to say, oh, wow, Mommy believed that. Oh, how silly is that? Mommy's changing her belief. Shows the kids way more about how to navigate the world. And so my big advice to parents is let them be who they are, honor them, respect them as people, foster their opinions, let them find their own solutions, and point out the cause and effect. The other big point that I'm going to make about parenting kids and teaching them manifesting, or helping them to not forget manifesting, is do not train them to think that everything comes through you. You are not, and this is what most parents do, everything, if they want something, the parents buy it for them. If the parents can't afford it, they say, you can't have it because I can't afford it. This is the only conduit through which your good can flow to you, and this conduit is closed on this issue. Whereas if you don't feel joy in providing something for your child, the question should not be, can I afford it or not? The question is, do I want to, in the depths of my heart, give this to my child? And if you don't, if you don't have the money, if you simply don't want to, if it's not your highest joy to do it, if it doesn't feel good, then don't tell your child you can't have it. Tell your child, it's going to be interesting how you bring that about.
Right.
They can have it, they just can't get it through you. So what?
You can have it, right? They can have it.
Yeah, they can have whatever they want just like you can, but it doesn't have to come through you. And that is one of the biggest gifts that you can give them, because you don't want them to leave home when they're 18 or whatever, going off to college, thinking Mommy and Daddy are the only conduit through which my good comes. And then what generally happens is that they kind of feel lost, or they make somebody else responsible. A lot of women do this. Yeah, they say, oh, well, now a man has to take care of me. Take care of yourself. But if you can learn how, this is teaching them how powerful they are, and they'll take to this really quickly, particularly at the ages of your kids where they're still so little. They'll take this very quickly. They will manifest, for example, if you say, I want candy. Well, it's not my highest joy to give you candy. Manifest it another way. You know that kid will walk into the next store and the clerk will hand them candy? They didn't manifest it through you, but they got it. And then don't be all mad at them for, how could you get the candy? Because then it becomes, it becomes a power struggle. Well, I didn't want you to have candy. Well, why not? You better have a good reason for why you don't think your kid should have something, a reason that kid can understand, such as, well, we're about to have dinner, and if you eat candy this time of day, you get sick, remember?
Yeah,
and
that's
and one of the
that's hilarious, Melody. Not to cut you off or anything, but we have our middle son. He manifests candy all the time.
All the time. Like, how do you do that?
It's funny because we actually started to recognize this because he asks for candy like as soon as he wakes up in the morning and right before he goes to bed at night. He's asking for candy. And so recently he goes, Mommy, I want candy. Mommy, I want candy. And he goes to Daddy because Mommy says, no, you're not having candy right now. And then all of a sudden, he'll manifest, like, some candy that he found in his room or, like, an unopened lollipop. Or we'll go to a store, somebody's handing him candy. I'm like, what? And it's so funny, but he does this all the time. So you said that, and it made us laugh a little bit.
And the thing to remember, and this is the hard part for a lot of parents, is that if your child says, I want candy, and you say, okay, well, I don't, it's not my highest joy to give you candy right now. Then if he manifests candy, at that point, parents might get mad. I told you can't have candy, instead of saying, look at that, you manifested candy. You did that. And you can do that with anything else, too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not just candy. Instead of shutting it down, because that's how we shut down manifestation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we say it's wrong for you to have it. Why it's wrong for him to have that? Well, because he will get sick. Well, you know what? Let him find out. Let him find out. Your kid will not die. Let him eat candy till he drops. And then suddenly you'll be like, oh, this hurts. You're like, okay, you found out. That's a natural consequence. Otherwise, it's just you being mean. I don't want you to have it for your own good. It doesn't feel like it's for my own good. I don't get what I want. Yeah?
Yeah, that's wonderful information.
Let's get to the spiritual side a little bit. Many people believe that each soul chose to come to Earth. What do you believe on that?
We have intentions. A lot of people, when they think of our soul missions, they think, very specifically. And I just very recently published a blog post on this where I go really into depth on that. And they think really specifically, like, my mission is to meet this man and marry him at 35, or my mission is to be poor, or my mission. And so they lock themselves into limitations. That's not how our soul missions work. Our soul missions are things like to be joyful, to spread light, to be involved in the current evolution of the entire universe, actually, yeah. But let's keep it to the Earth and mankind, if we want to, yeah. To work with the energy, and we can even explore certain themes. So even if we come in to explore, for example, the theme of poverty or scarcity, that does not mean that we have to be poor all our lives, or have to be trapped in scarcity all our lives. It just means that we might have been born into a situation that allowed us to fully explore that side of the coin, and then we want to flip the coin. And because then we're still exploring the idea of scarcity, but by having surpassed it. And so we're never limited and locked into anything. We have come to explore certain themes, and yes, we will have agreements to work with certain people, but that doesn't mean that we're locked into a certain kind of relationship with them. Yeah? So a soul partner might come in just to annoy you, and then gravitate right back out. Or that person might end up being, your spouse, or that person might just be a best friend, or that person, they've come to mirror something back to you. The nature of the relationship is very much created by the choices that you make in this life, though. So you do have total free will, but you do have some kind of starting point. Otherwise, you'd come in as a baby in a completely blank slate, and there would be no starting point. You need to start somewhere. You need to start somewhere, so you get a starting point. And a lot of people, especially nowadays, have a very strong desire, and it is because it is a soul intention to help others. And now we're all here to help each other, whether we realize it or not, and we don't even have to try to do that because we're just here for each other. This conversation that we're having right now is benefiting both of us. It's benefiting people who read or who listen to the podcast later. But I'm not, just doing this just to be nice. I benefit from these conversations as well. So you don't have to try to benefit me. It just happens. So we're all here for each other. We're all angels for each other. Yeah, and
like
somebody that steps on your toe in the subway, for example, that's an angel. Now you may not see them that way. You may because that might be the fifth person that stepped on your toe that day, but they're helping you get to a point where you have your cattle prod moment and you go, "That's it! People keep stepping on me." And what it's really a metaphor for is the fact that you feel stepped on in your entire life. And you need to stop allowing that. So the universe is going to send a whole bunch of angels to step on you. Yeah, and so we're all angels for each other in the most beautiful of ways if we're willing, to see that. But some of us, and a lot of us in this time have a strong pull to really get involved directly with helping others, and we can do that in a variety of ways. You guys are doing that with your channel. I'm doing that with my business. Yeah. And so more and more light workers are coming out at this moment, and these are generally people who are here to transmute a great deal of energy, which means that they hit the ground running. They get born into situations that are fairly difficult. They surpass that, and they use that sort of bounce from that to shine a very bright light on people. Because I like to explain it this way. Your light gets brighter if you focus. You practice shining it, and you have come from darkness, and you've learned how to make your light shine brighter. It's like going to the cosmic gym and working out your light shining muscles. Yeah, if you don't have something to work against, something to push against to start with, something to train those muscles, you can raise your arms all you want, but you're going to get a lot stronger if you lift some kind of weight.
Right. That's wonderful information. Your presentation of, just getting this information out is awesome. I love it. Let me ask you, do you think that we create the circumstances in our life, or do you think that God sends us certain situations to teach us something?
It's the first with a tiny dash of the second mixed in.
Okay.
And here's why. We create the circumstances in our lives, but we don't orchestrate them.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that you decide what to focus on, and you have your beliefs and that sort of thing. But this ties directly into not trying to control the how. Yeah?
Okay.
Because a lot of people say, well, I would not have chosen to create a situation where somebody comes and yells at me and makes me feel small and tiny and horrible. Yeah? And yet that manifestation is precisely the one that brought about that feeling within you. Yeah? And a lot of people say, well, I could have done with an easier manifestation. I would have heard the message if the manifestation wasn't that big. Well, guess what? The fact that you got that manifestation means that you just lied, because you didn't hear it before. Big negative manifestations don't come out of nowhere. So the idea that you need to be taught a lesson, that puts sort of, the whole God concept into a very parochial, parental position, which is not true from my point of view. Yeah, because that's still kind of a powerless, we have to ask for things, and by the mercy of God we get. When we realize that we are essentially part of God, we're not just kids, we are masters here. We're, aspects of God here to create and go through this experience, then we realize that, it isn't God who's putting things in our way to teach us a lesson, it's us creating circumstances, letting the machine of the universe and our higher self orchestrate them perfectly, and trusting that whatever has come into our life has come in perfectly. So if there's something going on in your life that is big and it's negative and it's painful, you can know that it isn't any bigger than it needed to be, because it didn't get your attention. And the reason it didn't get your attention is not because you're masochistic or stupid. It's because it's something that's been with you usually for a long, long time that feels so normal that you didn't pay attention. It's like you don't hear the humming of the refrigerator until it becomes loud enough.
Right.
Or until it starts clanking or something changes. Because it's so part of the landscape, the woodwork, that you don't see it. You don't see it. It can be obvious to somebody else, but to you it isn't. And therefore it has to get louder and louder and louder, and it will not get any louder than it needs to. Parents understand this. You can be involved in something, and your son comes up and goes, Mommy, 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 Mommy. And suddenly he's like yelling at you, and then you go, why would you yell at me? Well, he didn't start yelling. Now, of course, if he's had to do that a few times, he'll just walk in and go, Mommy! Yeah, right off the bat. But the universe doesn't do that, ever. It never starts yelling at you. It always starts with a whisper. And so you can trust that whatever has come into your life is there at precisely the intensity that it needs to, and is perfectly, and if you're willing to look for it, you will see this, perfectly orchestrated to trigger that precise emotion, and nothing would have been as precisely uncomfortable. Yeah? Because people think, well, I would have gotten it easier. No, you wouldn't have. Otherwise, it would have happened easier.
Okay, so Melody, what are some of the things that you're working on next?
Yeah, I mean, my coaching practice is basically full all the time, so that kind of makes me realize I've got to do, other things to reach more people. I am going to be ramping up my videos a bit over the next few months, upgrading. I'm writing a book, and I'm going to be creating some sort of in-between products, some like little kits that people sort of do-it-yourself kits, if they can't get in with coaching with me, that are specifically geared towards certain subjects where they can say, okay, I'm going to go through this program and it's going to help me shift this vibration,
Right.
because I can only coach so many people, and I'm one little person and I want to reach a whole lot more people. So that's in my plan for the next few months. I'm also being drawn heavily to the island of Ibiza. I live in Barcelona, Spain at the moment. So I've been visiting that island. The energy there is amazing, and so that's taking up some of my time. I just got back from Peru, where I spent some time with a shaman in the mountains.
That's cool.
So my life is really busy at the moment, but it's my main focus at the moment, and this is sort of really advanced, but maybe for beginners, your more advanced readers, this is more for them. But the thing that I'm really working personally on it at the moment is to be in the moment as much as possible and to simply follow my highest joy and not try to orchestrate anything, and really trust that every moment of every day, what my impulses tell me to do is precisely going to lead me where I want to go. And the more I do that, the more I trust that happens, the more I see that it actually is happening, the more I see the orchestration of the universe and how it is orchestrating every detail for me. And so my life is getting really, really, really awesome right now.
Cool. So you spent time with a shaman. How was that?
It was absolutely amazing. It was not my first time in Peru, and I'm kind of a hardcore person. I always have been. I fully embrace that. I don't do things sort of half. What's a non-Christian word to say? Half-butted? I don't know. For those of you who want to go to my site, anybody who's listening to this, I do curse, so live with it. I can write it in, but and shamanic work is kind of full on, because the way that I tend to describe it is, it's like somebody asks you to jump into a lake of fire and says, it'll be all right, and then you kind of inch your way up to the fire and go, no, and then you jump back a little bit and inch back up and jump back, and and it is kind of that hardcore. It can be, but I really enjoy that. When other people go, oh, that totally scared me, I go, cool, let me run towards it.
Me too. Me too. I am. Yes.
So,
yes, we are the same on that aspect.
Yeah, and I actually don't like it if it's too mild. I don't trust it, and so I like that. And I had a wonderful time. I was in the jungle last time I was there. This time I was in the mountains. It was very different. I do work with the plant medicines there, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I got so much out of it, things that I'll probably be processing for the next year or more, and got a big vibrational jump. And I'm working on myself full time. I do this full time. I got a phone call the other day, which was really weird because I don't usually answer the phone when random people call me, but this guy got through. He manifested it, and he just wanted to know, do you really believe that this works? Do you live this? And I said, yes, I live it. I live this every moment of every day, and so I can't help myself but just go for more and more and more, because at this point, there's no returning out of that rabbit hole. I can't go back to an existence of disempowerment, and I can't go back to thinking that it's all for nothing, and I can't go back to thinking that I have no control, because quite frankly my life is so much better this way.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful. Melody, thank you so much for being on YouAreCreators.
You,
really.
You're so welcome, guys. I really, really appreciate you having me.
Well, this is Justin and Erica from YouAreCreators, and we support your dreams.